Hello, everybody. We're so glad you came to spend some time with us tonight. And of course, tonight we're live streaming on some new platforms. We've kind of changed a couple of things. We are live streaming on Benenoc Fellowship Facebook page, a Simple Walk Facebook page, and Power Faith Radio and Sacred Odyssey videocast. And I just wanted to just spread all that out and thank you all for coming to be this way tonight. Now, I would also say that be looking kind of attached to the Benenoc Fellowship. Terry and I have some things that are in store in our hearts we want to try to do, and so you be much thoughtful on us as we do these things. So, Terry, would you greet the people? And I'm going to get ready to do what we always do, is Sadaka time.
That's right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our very first Outreach Noah Wednesday night class. Outreach Noah is a nonprofit that Scotty and I are forming. It's a teaching ministry, and where we teach the Hebrew Scriptures, teach the ethics and the morality behind the commandments of God that He's designed for us as human beings to live by. And so tonight, I hope you enjoy the class. We're going to be talking about the products of the righteous based on Genesis chapter 6-9, which is a passage that Scotty and I stand on and have actually formed our lives around. So hope you enjoy the class. Welcome everyone that's here, and we've added some about 4 different things, so I'm not going to try to go through and name them all right now. But this is our first night out doing this somewhat, I guess you'd say, on our own and everything. Have your notepads, pens, note-taking materials, because I'll be mentioning some passages. I'll be giving some information that you may want to jot down. And if I say anything that maybe I go through too fast or you want to hear something again, please let us know in the chat rooms, and Scotty and Amuela and Thomas that's watching all the chat rooms with it for us can help me, and I'll go back and repeat anything that needs to be repeated. So, Scotty, are you about ready? You're off. There you go.
I am if I can find you again. I minimized you and then I couldn't find you. You got lost in all my stuff I got up on my computer.
Thomas and I went fishing.
Oh, gee. Okay, now you bring it up. So, all right. Well, again, it's so good to have everybody with us tonight. I want to say again, those of you that are on Benenoc Fellowship, this is a page that Terry and I started actually about 1.5 2 years ago, before the advent of the virus. I'm not going to say its name. I'm just going to say it like that. And we kind of put this on the back burner, but we're picking this back up and we're going to run with it. So, and also a Simple Walk. We want to thank you that come by Simple Walk. We've got different people in both group, and we thank you for coming tonight. And also, again, we are live streaming on Sacred Odyssey videocast. And
we started that about 1.5 years ago or so, until everything happened. Well, and 2+, our rabbi, our teacher, had some surgeries and things going on in his life, and he was having to get up at 2:30 in the morning for the Wednesday night class, and he asked us to help him out there. And that's what we've been doing for about the last 1.5 years, is helping him out and everything. And then now that everything is kind of coming back together, we've talked to him and told him we needed to go back and pick up some things that we kind of laid aside when everything happened. And so he gave us his blessing.
Right. I also want to say one more thing before we do our Sadaka. Terry and I, we uploaded a video, and we've got some more things we're going to discuss in that video. And it's sort of, we were talking about where we stand, but I think it's more than that, Terry, as I begin to think about it today. It is using the text to find out who we are. What is I hear people saying all the time, "What am I supposed to do? What is my in kind of the religious aspects of people, they say, what is my calling? What am I supposed to do for God? All these things." And so it kind of covers that, and we've got some more things that we're going to cover. So we want you to make sure you subscribe to those channels, and you'll be notified every time a video goes up. All right, it's time for Tzedakah. We're going to do our birthdays first tonight. We had a birthday this week of Danielle Jackson. Had a birthday this week. We're giving Tzedakah for her. Also, Al Overall had a birthday this past week, and we're giving Tzedakah for him. And then John Cohen had a birthday, and we're giving Tzedakah for him tonight. We're giving Tzedakah in blessed memory tonight for Chuck Fredlander. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Chuck Fredlander. And we're giving Tzedakah in blessed memory for him tonight. So let me turn my page here. All right. Now we're giving Tzedakah tonight. Pesach had his cataract surgery as well as Veronica, and he went last early Monday morning, and I haven't heard how it went, but he went for his checkup. And then also Veronica Port, well, we give Tzedakah for him. Well, Veronica, we're giving Tzedakah for you, honey, that you'll continue to see better and better, and see how good we look. So, but Veronica's having some issue with one eye, and we're going to give Tzedakah for that healing on that tonight. Also, Ronald Dickman texted me earlier and said he wasn't going to get to be here tonight, and he was going to what I tell you he was going to?
Cardiologist.
Thank you. I got towns in mind going on here. So we're going to be giving Tzedakah that everything is okay there. Also, David Bremer, we're still giving Tzedakah for him. I've been trying to find some updates on that and haven't found any yet. Also for Brianna Warnstaff, we're giving Tzedakah for her tonight. She's still in quite a bit of pain, so we're giving Tzedakah there. Amuela, somebody always sends $1 with your name on it, honey. So we're giving Tzedakah in Amuela's name. So I want to put that way. Also, Thomas, we're giving Tzedakah in your name for a blessing for someone. And then, Wendell, we're still giving Tzedakah for you and your wife. Has your wife had any reports about her exploratory surgery that she had?
No, the labs sent it out for additional tests, but we're supposed to get a report on Monday. We're going to meet with the surgeon.
Okay, so we're giving Tzedakah for a good report there. And also, as we were talking, Karen mentioned that she kindly took a little tumble, and she's having to have some things moved around in her body bone-wise to try to fix that. And also she's got Harold going too. So we're giving Tzedakah tonight for Karen and Harold Ori. So Harold and Karen Ori. So, all right. I want to say one thing about Tzedakah. Some of you that are listening to some of our streams tonight, that's probably the first time you ever heard the terminology of Tzedakah. If you'll go to our YouTube channel and a Sacred Odyssey videocast, make sure you put it in that way, Sacred Odyssey videocast, you'll find a teaching on Tzedakah, but there's also some others that have some great teaching on Tzedakah, and I think it would bless your heart to understand the depth of it. The part we do here is just a small definition of it. It's called charity. Charity is pardon the way I say this, it's a weak translation to Tzedakah, but there's nothing weak about charity. And but Tzedakah goes a long way farther than just giving a little bit of money to help the needy. I think I said all that right. Did I say all that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And so I want to go ahead and welcome. Terry, you might have. I was doing some stuff while you were talking, but I want to go ahead and welcome Thomas with us tonight. Thomas Schaus and Uella Asher. They're kind of watching and we call her Yeoman Asher, and they're kind of watching the Facebook and YouTube channels to see what's going on over there. And then Veronica Port and Wendell Parsons and Harold and Karen Ori, and then Fred Rawls is with us tonight. And I think he just post something about David Brimmer, PM David Brimmer, and found out he is well-being. Okay. Oh, find out about his well-being. So we'll find out some information. But it's good to have you here, and as always, it's good to have my wife with us tonight. Her name is Annie. And her actual name's Dolores, but I call her Honey. So, all right, without further ado, Terry, let's get started in our class tonight. I'll put you on speaker view.
All righty. To help out a little bit for those that are also new to the term tzedakah, in its, I guess, spiritual sense, in a way, it means to take that which is God's and put it in the right place. And that could be money, that could be your actions, your deeds, things like that toward one another. And Scotty and I do not take one cent from that. It goes, one of the things that we do in our in the nonprofit that we do, that we've been doing, is lift the hand of the needy. We have helped COVID survivors. We've helped with funerals of different types of children and other pastors and things like that. So it goes to help to lift the hand of the needy, is what that's for. And so I hope I said that okay, Scotty, for you. You have to remind me, my sinuses have been draining. We've had this weird weather this year, going from 50 to 90. And so, alrighty, tonight we're going to, our text that we're going to cover tonight is, our primary text is Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. I will be primarily going through the teaching of this passage through Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, who was a German Jew that lived around 200 years ago in the 1800s. He has, I love his stuff because the way he breaks things down. So a lot of times I will not in our classes go through a lot of the stuff he does, because he'll break down words into their root words and go to other passages where these words are used and pulls it up. I mean, he gets pretty deep, and that's kind of the stuff I like getting into. It's what interests me. But tonight we're going to be looking at the products of the righteous. The passage tonight is, like I said, Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. It says, "These are the products of Noach. Noach, a righteous man, was morally pure in his times. Noach walked with God." There is a ton of information right there to be learned. And we're going to learn some of it tonight. Can't learn it all in one evening. But the very opening passage, it says, here in the Hebrew, it says, Eila Teledot Noach ish Zadik Tamim. That is a very powerful, when you get into the Hebrew and you start breaking things down and understanding what the Creator said. Now, I want to place you into something you probably haven't thought about before. And I never really thought about it before either, until several years ago when I was studying. It was one of those aha moments for me. When we read these passages, like this passage here tonight, the Creator is giving this to Moses to write down. What is talked about here about Noah was some 2,000 years later, coming from the Creator to Moses. This is what the Creator had to say about Noah. 2,000 years later. And it is the Creator telling Moses that Noah was a righteous man. Actually, it doesn't say he was a righteous man. It says a righteous man. So that's telling you through the whole life of Noah, when it was over, the eternal recording was he was righteous. And he was the first one that was listed as righteous, named as righteous, spoken as righteous by the Creator. From this time to back to the beginning of the Torah, the Creator doesn't mean that there wasn't any righteous, but the Creator made a note to tell Moses he was righteous. So everything we read right here was something the Creator said 2,000 something years after the fact. And sometimes I don't think we think about that. Sometimes maybe we get a chance to meditate on that issue. And that's important for if the Creator mentioned this, it's very important. And if you have Moses write it down, it's really important. So we're going to look at the very first part here where it says here that these are the product of Noah. Some translations will say generations because where it says toiledot, that's generally translated as generation or product, depending on how it's used in a verse. It's used as product in another passage in Genesis chapter 2:4, where it says, Eila toledot hashemayim ba'haretz. These are the products of heaven and earth. When it is used like this, it introduces a new series of development in the history of creation. So too, the words here, these are the products of Noah, introduces a new series of development in the history of mankind. The first one in Genesis 2:4 is a new series of developments within the creation. This one now is in the history of mankind. Mankind is about to perish. Noah, as a second Adam, and he was a second Adam, is to stand at the head of the new mankind. I know many of you, there's many of you probably have never heard that, but Noah was the new Adam. God could have wiped all human beings off the earth and started over fresh by creating another man from the dirt, but he didn't. He took the righteous man, the morally pure man, and he stood at the head of all mankind. At the time, there was no one on earth like him. It is not immediately followed by the enumeration of Noah's children. See right here, what we are learning here is that the products of Noah is his righteousness and his moral purity and himself. The scripture is saying here that he himself, because it says this is the product of Noah, and then the first things mentioned is Noah himself. This is saying that he himself is his first product. The kind of man he is the first thing that he produces. The sages of Israel in Beresh Rabbah, which we're going to be getting to here in just a second, infer from this that the primary product of a person The first yield of his labors is his character. Is his character. This inference applies especially to Noah and in his era. For the general the degeneration of the people, and he preserved the purity in his own heart in such a generation. A generation that brought death to the world. In such a generation, the first and foremost product of the righteous is their good deeds. His character, his good deeds that to himself, and we're going to be seeing that. Over in Bereshit Rabbah it says 36, but we're going to go. I'm going to drop back to section 5. First, it says the important lesson, and this is more commentary and teaching on this passage. The important lesson that we learn is that character is the most important aspect of human personality. It is more important than the progeny, than your children. See, his children's listed later. They're not considered his first products. His first product is himself, his righteousness. Zadok, a righteous man. Tamim, a morally pure man. In some translations says that he's wholehearted and perfect. And there's just other English words that's used. But the majority of what I have read from the sages when they teach deeply on this passage, it's the Tamim is speaking of his moral purity. It is more important than progeny. It is more important than wealth and more important than leadership and power. When it says that, it says about Noah that he was righteous and moral and morally pure, it is telling us something about him of the greatest possible importance. See, we those of us raised in Western religions have skipped all of this because our heads were stuck somewhere else. We weren't told this was important. Understand, this is the foundation. God began humanity again with the foundation, with a man who was righteous, who was morally pure, and he walked with God. That is what he started. That's why he was the new Adam. That's what he started, who you and I are from. Everyone on the face of the planet since, the flood are descendants of him. That's why we're called Benenoc. We are the children of Noah. And that's what that means in the Hebrew. And it's so important. He is our patriarch. You don't hear that word mentioned often among the non-Jews. You hear about the patriarchs of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You hear about that. But Noah is our patriarch. He is the prime example. The Creator himself chose him out of all humanity at the time to start creation over with, to save the earth, to save the animals. It says, because he was truly righteous and morally pure, it follows that he was able to control his own desires and passions and dedicate them to higher principles. We have to be real with ourselves. When we study stuff like this, when we look at Noah and we look at ourselves in the mirror, we all struggle with our desires, and we fail in those desires and those passions because we haven't been taught. We've been taught religion, but we've not been taught how to live and dedicate our desires and our passions to a higher purpose and to higher principles. Our mind hasn't been geared toward those things. And it takes time. This is something you won't do overnight. I've been learning this for 20-something years now, and some things I have overcome. But most of the time when I'll react, and I'm like, dummy, you know better than that. And then you have to go back and do some repentance and straighten over and try to do better the next time. That's what repentance is for. That's the best gift God gave to man, was repentance. He doesn't just hit you over the head with the hammer and you're out. No. He gives you the opportunity to fix yourself, which we're going to cover that in a future class. This gave Noah an importance in the world at large and rendered him as the model to be followed. When was the last time you heard a religious leader say, you need to study Noah and follow him? See, this is why Scotty and I, we study these things about what the Torah sages have learned about Noah, his life, and what's been recorded in history through Israel, and what's expected to all humanity. He was the example to be followed. The same character helped to mold his relationship as a parent to his children and as a human being to his fellow man. We should not read these verses with the idea that this teaching is simply regulated to Noah. This should be a goal and a motivation of every human being in the world. Moral character should be the main goal of education, and everything should be done to produce a student who will emerge as a citizen with high moral principles. We don't have to go far to see where we as a people have failed. Would that person who attacked that school a few days ago been raised with morality instead of probably video games and TV shows and and cell phones and things like that? If you look at the person driving down the highway who about knocks you off the road trying to get around you, driving 100 miles an hour, they haven't been taught morality. Putting someone else in danger, life's danger, is actually a violation, a lower violation of the prohibition of murder. When you could care less about someone else's life, technically you could cause them to be murdered. You could murder them by your actions. See how this goes? That's one of the things that Scotty and I are wanting to do with the nonprofit. As we're teaching, we're wanting to get into the ethics and the morals behind these things to help, hopefully, someone can, and even ourselves, grasp to change our actions to help create a better place to live. And that's what our job is. The non-Jewish people, our responsibility is to settle the earth. And as we settle the earth, we are to help create moral and just communities that has morality toward God, morality toward each other, and a morality toward the earth itself, the creation. These are the things that you just don't hear this taught. I'm just saying, you don't hear this being taught. You're hearing stuff that makes you jump up and shout and hallelujah and amen and stuff, and good message, religious leader as you go out the door, and then you're off living your life. Nothing was taught to you the importance of imitating God through what we learned about Noah being righteous. And we will have many classes on righteousness and moral purity and walking with God and how all this ties in. It used to be taught. There's some famous theologians and ministers in the past in several different religions that taught morality. And it shook. Sometimes it would shake the people If it wasn't taught, we wouldn't have shows like Andy Griffin, Mayberry, the Waltons. Go back and look at them shows. Those shows are like a breath of fresh air today. And it's like those are the things that was on the tail end of what this world was leaving behind for something that they thought was better. And what got produced after that was school shootings and bombings and burnings of police stations and people climbing in other people's cars and trying to harm them, and just everything that's going on in the world today is a world without morality. And Scotty and I will probably looked at we're archaic and we're we're not on with the agenda. No, we're not on with the agenda, because the agenda that's going on today is evil. It's wickedness. And it takes time. It takes time to work on yourself. And the only way that we can change the world is just like Michael Jackson's song. You want to change the world, you change the man in the mirror. That was a beautiful song in what it says. Because that's what we've got to do. Each one of us has to change the man in the mirror. We need to stand there in front of a mirror and not only just look at our outside, straightening our ties and combing our hair and putting our glasses on. We need to take some time to look into that mirror and look into the eyes, look into the soul of that person standing there. And we need to begin to ask questions. If Noah was the new Adam, if he was the primary person of humanity to start humanity over, he was God's chosen man. It says, Ish Zadok, a man righteous. That's what God says. That's not what Moses said. That's not what the Bible says. That's what God said, the Creator. Ish Zadok Tamim, righteous and moral man. These are the character traits by virtue of which Noah, which God chose as the basis of the new mankind, as I was talking about. Now we're going to go over to Bereshit Rabbah 30 verse Parsha 30, Midrash 6. And it's actually a teaching on, you want to jot this down, you'll probably want to post this, Amwella. Proverbs chapter 11 in verse 30. Proverbs 11, verse 30. The fruit of a righteous one is a tree of life. The fruit of a righteous one is a tree of life. This is interesting. In one of the ancient writings of Israel, Tiferet Sion, talks about the fact that Proverbs uses the word fruit. And then the expression tree of life. After all, a tree is not a fruit. A tree is not a fruit. It seems that it should have said the fruit of life. How then do we explain the use of the term tree? A tree does indeed produces fruit. A tree is a symbol of life. Just as the tree produces fruit, so should we produce good deeds and the observance of commandments, which are the true fruits of a moral and ethical life. The observance of commandments, and I hate the word commandments in English because it's been given a negative term, but that's the observance of the divine commandments, and you've got to be taught which ones you're to do. As Scotty and I have talked about in our video, there are some that's not for us, there are some that are for us, and that's what we teach on. But the observance of the commandments are the true fruits of a moral and ethical life. And further, we should do these things without thinking too much of their reward. We don't obey for reward. If you obey for a reward, you have another agenda. You could actually turn a commandment into an idolatrous product if you're doing the commandment for, with the agenda that you're not doing it for the sake of the Creator. I've talked a little bit about that in the past and will be in the future. That you should not be thinking about their reward either in this world or the world to come. Whether you get something here or where you get something in the world to come. Just as the goal of a tree is to produce a fruit, so the goal of a good deed should be to produce another good deed. See, when a tree produces an apple seed, there's seed inside that apple. And I talked a little bit about that in a video we posted because it's on Genesis chapter 1, 11, and 12, talking about the seed, the fruit-bearing seed. But so you see when that apple falls and it decays, and the seed produces another tree to produce more fruit, to produce more seed, to produce more fruit. So the goal of that tree is not only to produce the fruit, but to produce the seed that will produce more fruit. And that's what this is saying. It's saying that just as the goal of a tree is to produce a fruit, so the goal of good deed should be to produce another good deed. There should be a goal. One good deed leading to another good deed. Just like the apple. The apple bears seed, and the seed will produce, the tree produces a fruit that is seed that will produce another fruit. And that's what we should be doing. The apple tree doesn't do that to gain anything for itself. It solely is there to produce fruit that will produce fruit that will produce fruit. And that is an example for us to learn from. We are here. Shouldn't be worried about ourselves as far as our spiritual. You do what you're supposed to be doing, and the Creator is going to maintain your life like He does the tree. You let that seed inside you bear fruit, and let that fruit bear seed, so other fruit can be born. That's the cycle that we are supposed to be doing. We are supposed to be producing moral and just and ethical societies. And we're not going to do that until we learn and understand and look at the creation and learn from it the way the Creator wanted us to. See, all this was here. The creation was here before man. God established all of this before He breathed into the dust of the earth and gave it life. All these laws were established. They're eternal. That apple tree that put out that apple, that cucumber plant that put out that cucumber, has a long history back to the very beginning week of the creation that it's been doing the same thing over and over and over and over. God created it to do that. Then He brought you and I here and gave us free will to see what we would do with it. See, without giving us the free will to choose wrong instead of right, it tests our character. It tests what kind of tree we are. But we are to look at what God already established. That's forever. It's an eternal law. The law of kind that Scotty and I just taught on from Genesis 1. The law of kind, the law of species, is a forever establishment. And we have the free will to follow that. Do we want to be like that cucumber plant, that apple tree, that corn stalk that's been producing corn that brings life to everything around it, the same as its ancestry did 1,000 years ago? That's what our goal is to get back to, is being that fruitful tree, that fruit bearing through the observance of the commandments and development of morality and ethics and justice. It says, if one wants to use the word reward, then the reward would be the producing of one good deed after another, and may it be as so long as we live. Our reward should be, when we do a good deed, when we do that which is right, it produces another opportunity to do what is right. That should be the cycle. It should reproduce itself. An apple tree reproduces itself over and over again. And so will good deeds, and so will evil. If you choose evil, if you choose wickedness, and that be your fruit, then you will produce that over and over. But we know the wicked will perish. Only the righteous that are bearing the good fruit will go on. But we shouldn't worry about that. See, that apple tree that you go out and you look at, that cherry tree you go out and look at, that pecan tree that you go out and look at. When's the last time we looked at that and look and see that we are actually looking into the past? Because thousands of years of that tree began 1,000-something years ago, 6,000 years ago, when that very first tree produced those fruit-bearing or seed-bearing fruits. And what we're looking at today is proof of how the law of God and the law of kind and the right production of the fruit that God designed will go on and carry. And it will be the same for every generation, producing the same fruit, so that the people that are alive and the things that are alive at that time can live off of that. But it doesn't change. It keeps being the same. So that tree that you're looking at came from a tree 6-something thousand years ago. And it's never changed because it's following the law that God put within it. And we should look at these things and say, this is who I need to be. I need to be that kind of person that walks with God and bears the fruit of God. And I'll be getting in future classes about emulating God and what we're supposed to be doing. It goes on to say, so it's a beautiful interpretation by the Tiferet Sion. The tree of life is a tree that produces those morals and ethical principles that are fruits of the good life. Does a tree demand a reward for its fruits, like I was just talking about? It does not. A tree, a cornstalk, a grapevine, none of that demands a reward for doing what it was created to do. If you're doing what you're created to do, you don't have to demand a reward. The reward's going to come with it. Why then should the tree of life, which is the human being, demand a reward for its ethical behavior in this world or the next? Why? Why should you demand a reward in this world or the next? The ethics of the fathers says, that's another writing of the Jews, which is a recording of the chain of transmission since Mount Sinai. It says, the ethics of the father says that the reward of a commandment is the doing of another commandment. This is really all the reward that is necessary for one who believes that the goal of the spiritual life is the imitation of God. Just as He is merciful, we should be merciful. Just as He is righteous, we should be righteous. No reward is required in life other than this. If we could only live this way and help others live this way, we would justify creation. We would justify creation. So what is the fruit of the righteous? This question arises when one thinks about the verse quoted in Proverbs, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. And realizes that a tree is not a fruit. The fruit of the righteous, the fruit of life, therefore it can be understood as hinting at the intention of the righteous should be at the time when he performs his good deeds, his spiritual acts. This is what should be understood when he begins to do his good deeds. The goal should be to look upon these deeds as fruit of the tree of life. Meaning that there should be no intention of receiving a reward either in this world or the world to come. The intention should rather be that by means of this particular commandment, God will give him privilege of doing another mitzvah, another good deed. As it is written again in the Ethics of the Fathers, do not be the servants who serve their master in order to receive a reward. How many serve God in hoping to get to heaven? That's, no. Believe it or not, there's no mention of that in the Torah. There's not a mention of that kind of reward within the Torah. The revelation of God spoken to millions of people upon Mount Sinai. What is our duties upon the earth. Do not be the servants who serve their master in order to receive a reward. Rather, the reward of a mitzvah, a good deed in this case, should be gratitude. Should be gratitude for the privilege of doing another, and that justifies referring to the good deed as Eitz Chaim, a tree of life. Because in addition of being a fruit, in itself it also produces fruit. Again, the apple produces another apple tree. Meaning more mitzvot, good deeds, as well as the good life that one builds by performing them. So this is how we can now translate the verse that these are the products of Noah. Noah was a righteous man. This was his entire goal. It can be said that his main goal of his good deeds was that through them that he would be able to do more good deeds and more spiritual acts. That is why he is called by God a righteous man. It is significant that and that it is stressed that being morally pure and not with righteousness, said it is far more difficult to remain morally pure in an age of immorality than to be honest in an age of dishonesty. This is how important morality and ethics are. The attribute of a righteous man is rooted in moral purity. Noah, however, it says he walks with God, foregoing the companionship of his contemporaries who ridiculed him. Noah held fast to God. His righteousness and his moral purity allowed him to walk with God. If he had not been righteous and had not been morally pure, he wouldn't have been, God wouldn't have said he walked with him. And it's something else. We do not read that God walked with Noah. We read that Noah walked with God. So what should this say to us? God leads the way. We follow him. We don't create our own religions, our own ideas. God is the one. If we were doing the Tennessee waltz, he would be the one leading the waltz, and we would be following in those steps. Anybody that knows how to do a good slow dance, you have one. If both people are trying to lead, it's going to be a mess on the dance floor. That's why it doesn't say God walked with Noah. No, Noah walked with God. Because God led the way. And we, as a society, as a world, have tried to take over the dance. We've created our own lyrics, our own words, our own songs, and we have tried to lead God. There's only one way to walk with God, and that's to follow him. But you've got to find out the direction he's walking in. Noah knew it. In a generation that caused the death of all humanity, Noah knew how to walk with God. He knew how to follow him. If he didn't, the Creator himself would not have said he was a righteous and a moral man. We've got to learn what righteousness truly is, not what religion says it is. What does God say righteousness is? What does God say moral purity is? If we're going to walk with God, we're going to have to let him lead. We're going to have to give up our songs, our dance. If we're going to dance with God, he's going to take off and he's going to lead the steps, and we're going to follow in his steps. If we don't let him lead, we don't walk with God. There's no two other. He doesn't walk with us. He walks among us, but we never lead God. He leads us. We have left that aspect of life. We all have. Every one of us have. We all are guilty of trying to take over the lead. It's time we look at the societies that we have in the countries we live in and the countries we don't live in. Man on this earth, religious, political, non-religious, non-political, are all trying to lead the dance. And you're almost going to, kind of reminds me of a song I used to slow dance to at the end of a dance. I was going to save this dance. But if we're going to walk with God, we've got to follow him where he's going. He's in front. He's leading. And we need to know what his steps are. And that's part of what Outreach Noah is all about, is learning, studying and learning the steps of God so we can properly walk with him, dance with him. Scotty, how are we doing?
We are doing great. While you've been teaching, I've been having some internet issues, and I finally figured out what it is, so I got it fixed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I was worried that it was glitching, but the majority of it I could hear. I want to ask you about something. Noah was righteous in his generations. Of course, the generations there is plural in the English, but the word righteous, could you tell us real quick, Sadiq?
Yeah,
And tzedakah.
Sadiq. Well, again, you have Sadiq and Tzedakah. Tzedakah, again, as we've said, you're taking that which belongs to God and you're using it for God's purpose, what He set it out to be for. That's being righteous. Being righteous is not a faith, not a religion. No one can give you righteousness. No one can give it. You are righteous and you're not righteous on your own efforts, on my own efforts. In Ezekiel 16, it talks about, in 18, I think, verse 20, somewhere in there, where it talks that the wicked man that turns from his evil ways and he does tzedakah and mishpat, righteous and justice and justice. It says that he is righteous by his acts, by what he does. Righteousness is based upon your actions.
Yes.
And that's what God saw in Noah. His actions was righteous. Righteous toward God, righteous toward man, and righteous toward the earth. And in all of his decisions, he was righteous. I mean, and God says that 2,000 some years later. And that's all that is for us. And it's not a religious word. It's a word that describes your character, your morality. And it's the word, the first time it's here in Genesis 6:9, and it describes a man who was more, it's interesting because it says Ish Tzadik Tamim. All those words are together. Man, righteous, moral, wholehearted, perfect, pure, whatever English word you want to put with. But his first product is himself, Noah. And his character led him to be considered righteous, and his righteous acts were moral. It's not religious. We're one thing we're not talking about religion here. We're talking about being the human being that the Creator created you to be. He created you to be righteous, but He gave you the opportunity not to be, or we would have been robots.
Free choice. Correct.
Free. I mean, and this is the way you understand free will. When I heard this taught by a rabbi, it was the way he said it was just it clicked. He said, you can take a gun, a bow and arrow, whatever you want to say. Let's say if you're playing darts, the free will is in choosing to pull that trigger. Once you pull that trigger, your free will is done. The result of your free will is up to God. Where that bullet, where that arrow ends. If your desire was to pull a trigger to commit murder, not kill, that's two different things. Because you can do self-defense, you can defend yourself, you can defend your family, you can defend your nation. That's not murder. But if you go out, you're walking down the street and you want to kill somebody because they made you mad, you can pull that trigger. That was your free will. Where that bullet ends and the result of how it ends is up to the Creator. If the person doesn't die from the gunshot, you're still guilty of murder.
Yeah.
Because that was the intention of pulling the trigger. Whether it killed the person or not, or missed the person. But that is what free will is. You have the free will to pull the trigger, but once you make, and that's in anything. It's like throwing the rock. You can't unthrow a rock. That's your free will. Once you have done the act, whether for righteousness or wickedness, your free will is over once you've done the act that was your choice. The result of that decision is up to the Creator. You cannot control that. I hope I explained that okay.
I think you did. Now, I got some questions that came in.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if you want to cover them now or wait till another, if you want to jot this down and cover it, leave them at a cliffhanger, so to speak. And I'm rewording this one to a statement that you and I have made several times. Where did Noah go to church? And I don't mean any disrespect in what I'm saying, but how did he get this without the advent? How did he get to be righteous without the advent?
How did he get righteous? Well, Noah also knew Adam. Adam was given the 6 commandments, the prohibition he was in, which we're going to be studying. We're going to be studying the text, show you how. Matter of fact, it may be the next lesson I'm going to get into the passage that is known from Mount Sinai that contains within the Hebrew all of the commandments of what's called Noah, the commandments that were given to Noah for the Noahide covenant in Genesis chapter 9. But there is no commandment to gather except for in a meeting place, except for Israel. Mankind was to settle the earth. Okay, he learned the prohibition of idolatry, the prohibition of blasphemy. He learned the prohibition of theft and the prohibition of murder and the prohibition of forbidden sexual relations and the establishment of a just court system. He learned all of those from Adam. Okay, that's where he learned them from. They had schools. They taught, and it was taught back then. It was taught from family to family. And then after the flood, God gave Noah the 7th one of Everminchai. You shall, when He gave us the permission to eat meat and whatever He says, and whatever it moves upon the earth shall be food for you. To eat things other than just plant life. We were able to eat animal and insect life after the flood. But He said, "You shall not eat meat taken from a living animal. You can't go up to a deer and rip its leg off and eat it while it's still alive. That's a prohibition." Now that only pertains to land of mammals and certain mammals. Does not pertain to fish and seafood. Only the land animals, because I know some will have some questions there on that. But he learned those things and he lived those things. Here's the problem. As time went on after Noah, men began to spring up, and the religious aspect came back in, and they thought of themselves as gods and set up false prophets and all these things, and set up temples to be worshiping temples that worshiped anything from the creation, and even those things not of the physical, but even the spiritual aspect, like the angels, they worshiped spiritual beings as well. But none of that was ever given to Noah. He wasn't supposed to do that. He was just supposed to live a righteous and moral life, and that's what he did. That's the example. And you taught that to you taught that to your family and your sons, and your sons taught it to their sons, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But it became forgotten as man moved and settled the earth, and religious and political men decided to take over the world and become gods and rulers of themselves. Then there came Abraham. And Noah, he taught Shem. We won't get all into this, but Shem was Melchizedek. He was the righteous king of Salem. He taught, him and his grandson Ever taught Abraham and his sons these 7 laws. There's actually a cave in Safat, Israel, called the Cave of Shem and Ever, where they had a school where they taught Abraham and Isaac these 7 laws. Abraham became, God chose him because of his faithfulness, that he would become the patriarch of the priestly nation through his son Isaac. Now, he had other sons and daughters, But only through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the priestly nation, and who we call the Jews or Israel today, became the priestly nation. And at Mount Sinai, when God gave them their covenant, he reiterated to Moses these things. That's why he had him write down Genesis chapter 6, 9. This stuff belongs to the nations. They still have to observe the 7 laws, but they're built on. The 10 builds on the 7 for them. And all that goes into the 613 for them. But the rest of us today, the authority no longer of these 7 categorical disciplines does not come from Noah. The authority comes through the Creator through Moses at Mount Sinai, because he reiterated that. He brought the authority. We do these things now, not because we were taught from Adam to Noah and Shem to us. We are taught now that we have learned these from Moses. And the Creator told Moses. So when we do these things, we live like this because the Creator desires us to. Not because, if you do it because it's a good idea, and you can do it, most all this stuff is rational. You're considered wise of the world. But to be the pious, to be the righteous of the nations, we do these things because this is how God wants us to be. We do it because of Him and Him alone only. Not for yourself, not for reward, but because Daddy asked you to clean your room up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You messed it up, you clean it up, and you keep it clean. And these laws will teach you how to keep a clean room.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scotty.
No, that's good. That's good.
I know you said you had some other questions.
Well, you actually answered 2 of the other ones. Where did Noah obtain his information in order to be righteous? And so you covered that. And then the third one was, did Adam, being close to God, transfer his information on down the generations?
Yes, because let me give you a hint on how I know he did this. How do I know that Adam transmitted this information? Because in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 7, God tells Cain, if you do good, if you will improve yourself, you will be forgiven. But if you do not improve yourself, which means he knows what to do to improve himself, sin lies at the door. How did Cain know what sin was unless Daddy taught him? Daddy Adam taught him.
Exactly.
How did he know how to improve himself unless his father Adam taught him what it takes to live an improved life? See, this is things we learn by study. We don't read the Bible. We don't read the text. We study it to find out what it is saying.
Exactly.
So anyhow.
Good class tonight, Terry. Good class. We've been about an hour and 10 minutes.
That'll work.
Are we coming to a close?
We can close unless there's any other questions. Anything on any of the other chats out there? Amola, Thomas?
I think everybody's enjoyed it. We've had several that's joined from some of the other venues that we were live streaming on. And let me see if I can just flip over here. I know Wendy is over there or was over there, and Ron Coupland was over there.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, for those that's in the that's listening via the Simple Walk Facebook group, this is the Simple Walk.
Exactly.
This is the Simple Walk. It's. I was reading today about how even some philosophers and psychiatrists and stuff, because I've been reading this book on morality by Sir Rabbi Johnson Sachs of blessed memory. Wrote a book on morality. It was his last book before he passed away. He's quoting quite a few really good psychiatrists and how some of them have actually discovered that getting away from simplicity has been part of the problem of our societies that we are no longer simple. We're too complex, and that's not talking about technology. We're becoming too complex in our areas of our life instead of being simple. And we're going to be teaching on that because Rebbe Nachman of Breslov really taught a lot about simplicity. Do not serve God with over righteousness and over piousness, but with simplicity.
Exactly.
And so, anyhow, so that guy's from Simple Walk. That's what simple. This is what Noah, righteous, pure, morally pure, walk with God, simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
No religion needed. No degrees, no seminary degrees, whatever you want to call it, college degrees. Need to know, just need to learn some morality.
Yeah. Also, Terry, over there is Shannon Newsom and Cole dropped in tonight.
Welcome, guys.
And of course, I said Christina, and then from Christine Thompson, and then Wendy Shepard is listening tonight, and we're so glad to have her. And Zakia was
all the way from Peru.
Yeah, they were on the YouTube channel tonight listening, and so it's so good to have everybody. And all right, is it about time for me to come take it on down to a spin?
You take it on down to a spin.
Okay. Listen, everybody that is members now of Benenoc Fellowship, I'm going to ask you to invite people into the room. Now, I want to tell you just a little bit real quick about what Benenoc Fellowship is all about. Terry has already covered this, and I just want to relate this here at the end of this video. We're not another Noah Hyde Facebook group is just going to share the same videos everybody else is sharing. We will probably share some videos that other people may be sharing, but those that pertain to just being Noah Hyde.
And Noah Hyde is being the person that God wants you to be. It's not a religion. It's just being a child of God. What he just said is being a child of Noah.
Yes.
And being a child of God.
Yes. Now, we want you to invite some folks to come on in. And we just want to talk and present the simplicity. And now I'm bringing up a simple walk. Those of you that are in a simple walk listening tonight, we want to tell you, don't carry around a lot of religious baggage. As you'll find out in the information that we're going to present, it is actually a simple walk. If it becomes hard, it's because you made it hard. If it comes religious
or burdensome,
what Terry just said, then you kind of formed it that way. But it's just a simple walk, and we come join us and gain some knowledge. Those of you that was the 2 Facebook groups. Those of you listening by Sacred Odyssey videocast, please like those videos, share those videos. We got a lot of videos over there. We're going to pick that back up and start flooding the market, so to speak, with some of those videos, and share them with all your social media platforms. Those of you that are listening by Power,
and subscribe.
And subscribe. Thank you, Terry. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. Those of you that are listening by Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much for coming this way and spending some time with us. The link did not change for you, and you came. We want to thank those folks from Georgia that's kindly hanging out, and gaining information, and we pray for your decisions of everybody that you become Sadiq, you become righteous. And I guess that's the best way to say that after you presented that tonight, Terry. I will say I had a couple of glitches that happened on my end, but I contacted Thomas, and he said he didn't see no glitches going on. So we're glad that all that was panned out and good. So Thomas has got a glitch going on there. He's so listen.
There's a glitch.
Come back and be with us next Wednesday. Yes, come back and be with us next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. New York time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will look for you right here. See you later.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.